All right, I am very pleased to introduce our esteemed panel this morning. We just ask that attendees to please stay muted during the panel. We will make time for a Q&A at the end, so feel free to save those questions until the end, or feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll circle back to them. We're also planning to make time after the panel for any community announcements, anything that you or your organization would like to share out with the group. There will be time for that at the end as well, so you can be thinking about that. This morning we are joined by 4 incredible Birmingham City School teachers, and I just want to acknowledge kind of what a unique and challenging year that we're coming off of, where it's hard to find steady ground for the past year plus. And just thank you all so much for your time and for being here. We are joined by Kimberly Green. She is the gifted and talented education specialist for Birmingham City Schools. Erica Jones, who teaches advanced English at Ramsey High School. Rodriguez Leonard, who teaches advanced English and coordinates the Freshman Academy at Ramsey High School. And Sandra Rackley, who is a 2nd grade teacher at Oxmoor Valley Elementary. And we have a fantastic moderator today, who I know we all know. T. Marie does extraordinary work across many fields and many disciplines. I think most notably is her work in the social justice arena. And I've gotten to know her recently as a sock connoisseur. Just a little fun fact. So I'm very pleased to turn over the floor to our 4 panelists and our moderator.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Deanna. So excited to be here with you all today, and especially on a Friday morning. So shout out to y'all for showing up on a Friday morning to be a part of this conversation. And thank you to our educators that are here to share some of their experience and kind of where they're coming from and what they're thinking about in the future in relations to education. I did want to do a quick round of introductions, and then we're going to have kind of a good conversation with the team. They have already been messaged the order we're going to go in to make it kind of flow a little easier. So I think it's nothing better than somebody to introduce themselves. So briefly for me, I'm T. Marie King, do a lot of work around social justice and equity. I think education for so many reasons is so necessary to make sure that all of our children have access to the things that they need in order to be successful. And I think, our educators, whether they're counselors, whether they're teachers in the classroom, coaches, I think should get a little bit more love than they actually do. So thank you all for the work that you do in serving students and families. If you haven't heard it lately, you're hearing it from me today. So thank you all for the work that you do in your service. So in the order that I submitted y'all in the chat, I'll let you all just introduce yourself briefly so you can share a little bit more about you and the work that you do.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sandra Rackley, and I'm a 2nd grade teacher at Oxmoor Valley Elementary School. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be with you today to discuss the community partners within education, and to just get my point of view as a 2nd grade teacher and how the arts are needed. And so thank you so much for having me.
Good morning. My name is Erica Jones, and I am grateful to be here this morning. I am a 12th grade teacher at Ramsey High School this year. I've taught 10, 11, and 12, so I'm very grateful to be here, and I'm grateful for you guys for coming and allowing us this opportunity.
Good morning. My name is Rodriguez Leonard. I teach 9th grade advanced English at Ramsey High School. I too share with Ms. Rackley, Ms. Jones, and the excitement of being here this morning to talk about our jobs and how the arts can support that. So again, I'm grateful for the opportunity and very humbled at being selected to do this.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kimberly Green. I'm a gifted specialist, grades 6 through 12 with Birmingham City Schools. thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of this conversation. I think it's very important that educators are at the table when we're talking about engaging with our students. So I can't wait to get started. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing a little bit more about yourself. So let's jump on in. So this is probably one of my favorite questions, no matter what arena I'm interacting in. But I want to know from you all, what do you value about education? What do you value about education?
I'll start that discussion for us. I value education because it is important for everything. It's important in everything that we do in our life. Students need to be exposed to a well-rounded education that includes the arts, humanity, science, the social science, not just the English and the math. Um, by allowing them to be well-rounded, this will prepare them for the 21st century, the workforce, and society. And as a classroom teacher, it is my job to make sure that my students have access to a rigorous coursework and the support they need to be successful. Um, the first thing I have to do is have that student teacher student relationship, making sure that we respect one another, have a safe environment, and building that trust so they can talk to me. And also, the way I approach it, different strategies, how I reach my students, and also having good leaders in the community and partnerships as well. And just basically, I have to do what I can do to support them so they can be successful. So reaching out the box and advocating for them.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I'll just jump right in. And the same thing with me. I want to say first that it's so amazing. I'm honored to be here with Miss Green. Miss Green was actually my reading language arts teacher in 8th grade. And so definitely one of my inspirations. So what I knew about education came from teachers. So definitely I was always motivated by my teachers, and just knowing that, she was coming to us from an HBCU, the great Alabama A&M University, and, just what she gave to us as students. I learned to write a check in her class. And so it's those type of relationships, so the value in education for me is first, student teacher relationships. You have to build those in order to get these children to even buy in. Okay, so that's first for me. And then knowledge. Knowledge is power. Just being able to, that's just something I always tell my students, once you get it, nobody can ever take that away. So get as much of it as you can, because it's gonna set you free. So the opportunities that these children get, by getting an education, as far as just not even just only academics, but along with those relationships, having partners to come in the classroom. These students have gained, my own child, also, I mean, just internships, scholarships, just relationships with people that I never even imagined that she would be able to connect with. So really just creating these lifelong learners in the classroom, that's what education is about. It's so many pieces that make up that education piece, but definitely building those relationships.
Um, for me, value in education is, like Ms. Jones was saying, it's the ability to think for yourself, and it also allows you to expand your horizon. So, as an educator, my job is to teach the children, the standards. We teach things that are standards based and ways of life. However, it's up to them to take that and develop that ability to think and expand their horizon. So, we teach them these standards. However, our job is greater than that, in that we're preparing them for life. And Ms. Jones mentioned lifelong learners. And so if they're going to be lifelong learners, they have to be able to navigate, not just in the world of academia, but they have to be able to navigate the world around them. And so those standards or those skills that we taught them, in essence, in the classroom, are what they need. However, our purpose serves greater than that. We teach them how to think so that when they are in these situations, past our classroom, past a college classroom, past an interview, they have something to stand on. So we are foundation builders in that, and so in that value in education, my definition of it, like I said, is what I give to my children so that they'll understand and appreciate education for what it's worth, and it's worth more than anything that we could put a price on. So that's what I just try to project to my students as an educator, and again, academics as well as for life.
Ooh, have to come behind all of that. Um, and I was taking notes. For me, what I do value in education is having an opportunity to teach the whole child from head to toe. And that encompasses so many things. Ms. Rackley mentioned creating safe spaces for our students, and that was a huge challenge this past school year because it became a reminder for us that a lot of times their safe space is in the school building, and the time they spend in the school building. Early in my career, I used to hear teach bell to bell from the time they get there until the time they leave. And within that time period, we have an opportunity to recognize that left brain, right brain, teach the logic, teach the facts, also bring those arts, because as a gifted specialist, I do recognize that a lot of our children's strengths are not necessarily rooted in your standard reading, writing, and arithmetic. And creating a balance there allows them to grow and develop in their strength and help them develop their passion. I do think it's essential that in the when we discuss the significance and importance of education, we have to consider their social and emotional learning, because the world we live in right now, it's almost a mandate now that we check in with them and see if they're okay, because if they're not okay, that learning is just really not going to take place. And then I wrote down a note that it's very important for us to be leaders in building a community, helping them understand learning the foundational skills will help them expand their horizons, as Mr. Leonard mentioned. And as classroom teachers or being a part of every student's village, we kind of take on those responsibilities when we come into this field. So being an educator is more than just teaching the curriculum. We have to look at so many different aspects and avenues that impact that each student's learning.
Awesome. All of that was so on point. I was taking notes too, Miss Green. Uh, and teaching the whole child, being a foundation builder, developing life learners. And a couple of people said student relate teacher relationships. And I think that is so important, but also when you're doing that foundation building and teaching that whole child, I always tell people, I was that kid that hated school. I love to learn, but I could not stay in school whatsoever. And I had a teacher, Miss Lee, was my 10th grade English teacher. And I slept through her class the entire 10th grade. And she finally told me, she said, I figured out what your issue is. You're bored in class. So we need to respond to that boredom. And so she said, I've put you in Miss Fry's, the teacher that nobody liked at the school. I put you in Miss Fry's African American literature class. And then you're going to take her Southern literature class. She said, because I see that you need something different, something a little more challenging. So I've always, think back on Miss Lee, that she introduced me first to Toni Morrison and her works, and how that impacted my life. So shout out to y'all building those student teacher relationships. Um, but something else you said, that was said, was that safe space, and thinking about the year that we came off of this past year, and actually we're still transitioning through the pandemic. And I remember different people saying, please stay at home, it's safer at home. And I remember thinking, because of the work I do in the justice arena, I was like, safe at home is not safe for everybody.
Mhm.
You know, and sometimes being in that classroom, being at the school is sometimes the safest place for some of our youngest members of society. And so my next question is, we're coming off this rough year, and we're going back into it, even with a level of uncertainty of what this new school year is going to look like for our students. So I want to know from you all, as you are preparing to go back into the classroom, what are you looking forward to? But also, what new things are you bringing into the classroom?
The 2020-21 school year has definitely forced me into learning how to make my lessons more fun and engaging. I found myself enrolling in multiple developmental, professional developmental courses like Ed Form, Alabama Technology in Motion, to help me to make it fun and engaging for my students, because I teach second grade and it only takes a second and they will just drift off. So I had to prepare myself. Um, Also advocating for those students that didn't have the support at home. Some of them had grandma and granddad at home to help them with the technology that I was integrating into the list. And then some of them, Miss Rackley, I need help. And so having that family support was very helpful during the pandemic as well. And also allowing the students to have a voice in their learning, because they'll be more engaged if they have a voice in what they want to learn. Yes, we're teaching the standards and going by the curriculum, but having that conversation with them and asking them, let's try it this way. So letting them be creative, not just my little script that I spent several hours on planning, but have them their buy-ins to see what they have to help them grow as a lifelong learner. But it definitely has been challenging, but I look forward to the upcoming school year with all my babies in my classroom, because I have a lot of work to do and I'm ready.
I'm gonna start off with saying what I'm looking forward to, and I'm definitely looking forward to having them back. I don't think I realized, you know, I mean, I guess I'm known for student teacher relationships, but I didn't think I would. I loved being at home, but I missed that interaction. I missed the hugs. I missed the face-to-face conversations. It wasn't the same, and they need you more than you ever know. And it's hard to like stay on the Zoom to have those conversations. Is not the same as, can I talk to you after class? It's just not the same. And it wasn't the same because talking about safer at home, I don't think I realized, I talk a lot of times about, you know, these children and what their home lives might look like, but just the challenge of having them to turn on the screen. So, that was just one of my things when we first started. I'm like, hey, everybody, you need to turn on your screen. You need to, have on clothes, no bonnets, no hair, all of those rules. And then I'm like, wait a minute, these children are at home. And when I'm going to faculty meetings, not, my screen is off, I'm tired and I'm not even meeting as many times as they are. Like they're going from all day long, they are going to school. And I'm in a meeting for 30, 45 minutes. And after that, I'm like, oh, that's it today. Shut the screen down. So, just having them to transform, I feel like I expected too much. They were in their homes. I don't know what was actually going on in their homes. They had their screens off for a reason. Everybody didn't want everybody to see what their house, look. A lot of these children had siblings. You had two after, listening to them, they're having to get these children started. It may be 5 children in school or 3 children in school. So those type of things. So now the challenge coming back into the classroom, I'm teaching seniors. They've been adults. So it's having them to come back and having to reteach. That's my challenge. Thinking I'm going to have to reteach them on how to come back to school. Keep your voices down. How to maintain. That's my. I don't know if it's going to be but that's what that's my fear. Like, oh my goodness, this is gonna be like my first year teaching all over again because they missed their junior year. Normally, the juniors are the strongest, they're the most stronger children in the building. And so they missed that. So they didn't really get to see what senior year looked like. They didn't get a chance to kind of look forward to that by, being a part of like honors and awards day with the seniors, those type of things. So those are challenges that, that I think that I'm gonna face. But definitely looking forward to having them back in the classroom, and the chatter. So we do a lot of discussion and, having those conversations and just getting them I guess getting them where they need to be as best as I can before they graduate and enter the real world.
For me, this summer I worked the summer enrichment program. And so, as much as I would have liked to been, somewhere on a beach or, on a plane flying somewhere, I found much joy in being back with the students because we had been with them when we returned, but a lot of them did not come back, and so we were still virtual in a sense. So that interaction, that on the screen as a teacher, when they're in front of you, you can read them, and when I say read, I don't mean a book. I mean, you can read if they're having a good day, if something is wrong, you can see that when they're in person, but on the screen, you could not see that. So I miss that interaction where I was able to, if there was something they didn't understand, they don't have to raise their hand for me to know they don't understand. I can look at them a lot of times and tell. So I miss that because we didn't get to see that. I couldn't pick up on it virtually because if there are any questions, nobody said a word. And so after about 10 minutes of silence, we went on to the next thing. And so I miss that interaction with them. And so this summer I was able to kind of rekindle that. They probably thought something was wrong with me, but I was so happy every morning to see them, and I made sure I expressed that throughout the day as well. So a challenge, like many other educators will be facing, I think, is the reprogramming, but also the getting them acclimated again to how school is ran. They haven't been in school in a year. The rules per se, if we focus on those, but also the challenge of trying to keep them calm because we are still in a pandemic, and some students have been vaccinated, some have not, some teachers have been vaccinated and some have not. And so that trying to keep them calm in the midst of maybe someone being absent because they heard they had COVID or they were exposed or that type of thing. So just trying to be normal as we can, however, with the eye to the to this notion that we are still in a pandemic, so we still got to social distance. Yeah, I'm happy to see you, but we still got to keep our 3 feet or our 6 feet. We still got to wash our hands. We can't, and I think that's what's happened. We've relaxed that in a sense, and so with this new variant, et cetera. So I think the education piece we have down. So our challenges will not be the teaching part. Is this trying to calm the mass and keep them as calm and as CDC um, acclimated as we can, because again, we are happy to see each other, but we have to be aware of that we're still in this very treacherous place that we're in. So that is my it's not a fear, but it is a challenge that I think about a lot. How teachers will navigate that, because if we're calm, the students will be calm. If the principal's calm, the teachers are calm, and so it trickles down, and that's going to be a very um, large task for teachers in the fall.
Uh, I think for me, I am what we call itinerant, which means I service multiple schools. I'm at a different school every day. So for me, what I'm looking forward to kind of depends on where I will be on any given day. But for the most part, I'm excited to just reconnect with them. We did the very best we could with the virtual learning, the hybrid schedule, the remote learning, but to be in a classroom with everyone, socially distanced, practicing those safety guidelines, but just having that human to human interaction. Whereas Mr. Leonard mentioned, I can look and tell from when they walk in the door if they're having a good day. I see my students once a week for an hour and a half. So within that 90 minutes, I'm trying to do as much as I possibly can based on whatever my lesson is for that day. But I want to see how long will it take them to remember to value the experience of being in school. Just be reminded this time last year, you weren't able to come into the building, come into the classroom, and things that they may have taken for granted prior to. I'm excited to see if they're going to really realize, hey, let me sit down, be quiet, and pay attention. Because I could easily be back at home, possibly in the midst of chaos, expecting to be on with a camera on in front of a computer. So that's one thing that I am excited about and looking forward to. And then because I have my room as a resource room, I'm trying to have as much hands-on learning as I possibly can. If you've ever, and when I go to my middle schools, if you've ever seen me, I have my crate, I have my bag, I have another bag. I may have a second crate in the car that I have to go back and get because I'm bringing a lot of things with me. So if I have station rotation and you got to get up and move to do this one, or you got to get up and do this with this, I can't wait to get back in that space because, as I mentioned before, teaching the whole child means we also have to respect their learning styles. And so everybody's not centered around just sitting, listening to lecture and copying notes. We've got to be able to continue engaging them in multiple levels. And then what I want to bring to the classroom as a survivor of pandemic teaching is continuing the technology integration. And I hope that that's everyone's goal, no matter what their content area is. We've learned that we don't have to have a textbook in front of them all day, every day, in order for them to connect with content or for them to learn standards. And our district has done a wonderful job putting the tools, the tech tools that students and teachers need in their hands and giving them access. So that's something that I kind of committed myself to back in March 2020 when I never returned back to my classroom is learn and integrate as much as I possibly could when it came to Web 2.0 resources or anything that would engage them and help them take what they're learning in their regular classrooms and use it to create something different and new. So that's what I'm looking forward to bring to the resource classes that I have on the middle school level is continuing growing and sharpening those tech tools where we can just use Google for just searching for things that are not school related. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I'm sorry to I know I'm probably out of order as it relates to the way we're going, but when Ms. Green was saying about, our district, like other districts, made sure technology was, available to all students, so we also get this idea of equity in technology access, but sometimes that's a challenge as well. If it's a house with, multiple children, the the challenge becomes, issues with Wi-Fi, in which we experienced a lot this past semester. And I didn't question it. If they said their Wi-Fi was down, I just said, okay, I wasn't trying to figure out, if it was down or not. But that was a challenge. And so if we are that's the medium in which we are relying on is the technology piece. It's still a challenge in that students, if they don't have the Wi-Fi or if it's issues with that, it they're missing out even more on things. So that's a challenge that when Ms. Green was talking, it made me think about it. That's a challenge that will present itself anywhere. Just dealing with making sure that children have what they need to be successful with the technology piece. If and we're not in the building per se.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So that takes us right into our next question.
Yeah.
So thinking about COVID and how COVID really amplified many of the disparities that a lot of us knew, but that were new disparities to some other folks. Um, and being that digital divide in our communities. So how are you thinking about that? And then what solutions are needed? Like, what are those gaps and where could other community partners, come in and start filling those gaps that you see?
Um, for my students, we have one-to-one devices. Everyone has an Apple iPad. We did have issues with the Wi-Fi, like Mr. Leonard said. Oh, my Wi-Fi is messing up. I can't get on today. So that was an issue. Multiple siblings in the household, so we could hear the other teacher teaching, and we provided headphones for those students. Um, and it was rough, but we made it through. But one thing that I am going to do is record my lessons. So we do have a MacBook Pro. So for those students who are absent, maybe out sick, they can go back in and listen to that lesson. So definitely preparing, because they are not vaccinated. So I have to think ahead. What can I do so they won't get behind? Because they are already behind, but I have to do as much as I can on my end to prepare them, because we can't keep getting behind. We have to catch them up. And so I also did the summer literacy camp as well. And I saw a difference. I saw a difference when they're back into the building. So um, how can partners help us? By donating headphones, because some of them they did break, but um, headphones for those students who misplaced them. But that's all I can think of right now.
So when we're talking about community partners assisting us, I guess in this technology piece. So yeah, so our students they were issued laptops, but there was a challenge with the laptops too. So I'm not saying every child in Birmingham City would have to, but just some type of maybe laptop giveaway, so these children can own their own laptops. In we actually so I had two Birmingham City school students in my home, and it was one thing. If they didn't have their own personal laptops, they wouldn't have been able to get connected. Just let me say that there was a challenge, daily with the laptops, and they wanted to use the laptops. They wanted to use the same laptops that everybody else. Um, we're using because they are children and it's something new. But once you couldn't connect to the Zoom, or the system had, I guess it was trying to block them from getting on certain things. It was just so many different security blockers, I guess. And it was just, and so when the children told me, well, I couldn't log in today, I knew that they really couldn't log in. A lot of times the teachers would say, well, they're saying they can't log in. Well, if you didn't, even with my own laptop, I was issued a school laptop and it worked for the first 2 weeks of school, and I hadn't seen it again. So, we dropped it off and they didn't give it back. So those are challenges when we're gonna give students. We're gonna say, well, we have one-to-one. Now Miss Rackley said she got MacBook Pro. No, we didn't have that. Everybody didn't get that luxury, okay, but and like with the headphones, definitely, don't, and the children were offered headphones, but I think earbuds, those would be really good, and Wi-Fi. A lot of our students, they were offered Wi-Fi, and then the state allowed us, the parents, like, I know for me, we were able, I think my internet and Wi-Fi is about $65 a month or something like that. Well, the state offered a grant, okay? And so we didn't have to pay that $65 because we were students, my students were in Birmingham City Schools. Well, that's over,
Yes. Mhm.
okay? So here's a challenge. They're gonna need some Wi-Fi. Okay, but and even because we're coming back, we're still going to be using our computers. The teachers, like, I've educated myself. Mr. Leonard was telling me about QR codes the other day, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can run the classroom using a QR code. But they have to have the technology to be able to do. And I taught summer school, and it was good practice. Let me say that. The challenge is it's hard for you to tell them to put up the cell phones. Okay. And then it's hard to see what they're actually doing with these high school students because they're spending so much time on social media, So we need to make sure that the technology, the laptops, the Wi-Fi, everything is in sync so that we can move these children forward because I, I'm sure gone with the days of the pencil and paper and all of those things. So I know that Wi-Fi technology, the Wi-Fi, the earbuds, um, laptops, definitely, that definitely can be beneficial.
Ms. Jones, I know I should have something to say because I'm on the panel, but Ms. Jones and Ms. Rackley, they have my answers, so I concur with them. It wouldn't do any, I mean, it wouldn't do me any good to add to it because those were the things that I would say as well.
And I must piggyback on Mr. Leonard.
They
I
some
think
answer thieves.
right, and I'm pulling up the rear. How unfair is that? But I think the only thing that I would say, same thing. If you notice between Ms. Rackley and Ms. Jones's answer, every school site has possibly a different set of devices that
Mhm,
receive. And
mhm,
so for me, in planning lessons and everything last year, I would thinking everybody had this device. So I
Mhm.
set up my lessons to do it this way. On Monday it worked because at this school everybody had the same thing. But then on Tuesday, I'm with another set of students from a whole nother school and they have something totally different. So
mhm,
when addressing solutions to this digital divide, I think it's imperative, as I said, for everyone at the table where these discussions are being had, is that they recognize the limitations and the challenges that teachers and students may experience depending on what the device is. Because when we say technology, it's a huge umbrella,
mhm.
and something simple as earphones, earbuds with a microphone, that makes a world of difference as far as how much a student can do and how much they can access with their lessons, no matter what the subject area is. So even though I said I piggyback on Mr. Leonard and I ain't have anything to say, I think that's I think that's the one thing that that's very important. And it was frustrating for me because I got to see it, depending on what school, what group I had when we were totally virtual. And then when our department started going into the buildings and just doing a split virtual with those who were home and face to face for those who opted to come to the building, it would be totally different because sometimes students who decided to come back face to face on the second half had swapped out and got brand new something, and everybody else who were at home had something totally different. So I was like, wow, this is crazy, but didn't have time to really get caught up in that because the idea is take it, be flexible, and keep it moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you all for that. And to our partners out there that's listening, and to anybody that may see the video, you heard the request, so let's get our educators the things they need so that our kids get the services that they need. So I'm gonna switch it up a little bit and talk about something a little serious. My family personally was really impacted with some of my younger cousins and how they navigated mental health um, on this past year. Cousins that played sports who no longer could play sports, and their identity was connected to them being an athlete, or my cousins who just need that social interaction. They don't need to be at home looking at a screen. They actually need to be around people and interacting. And so that was something that I saw surface in my family. So my question to you all is, we know that mental health really surfaced with our children over the pandemic. So how should parents and educators be preparing for that with this upcoming school year?
As a parent preparing my two girls for the upcoming school year, um, has really been, it's going to be interesting because they were going into the building, then they came back home because they was in close contact. So they are afraid, but one is 12 and one is 8. So the 8-year-old did get her first vaccine. And I just told her, just pray about it. You're going to be okay. Wear your mask, follow the rules, social distance. Um, she doesn't want to come back home. She likes going into the building. She doesn't like to have to be quarantined for those number of days. The little one, she's ready. She's ready to try out for cheer, soccer, basketball. She's ready to get back to interacting with her peers. As a teacher, I feel that for the little ones, we need to get them together in a safe way so they can feel um, prepared and not overwhelmed with coming back into the building all of a sudden, with the mask on and the new rules and the routine, because we do have rules and routines into place to keep them safe, but we have to do it in a way that invites um, a love or a way where they can feel comfortable with talking to us and coming to us so we can engage them in their learning. It's going to be a challenge, but I feel that, I even thought about the popsicle with the principal, getting them out there on that track that we have, some music, just a fun day for the parents to meet the teachers. Because remember, the parents, they were not allowed in the building. So those kindergarten parents, they did not get to interact with their classroom teacher. They didn't know what was going on in the building. We communicated through school dojo, email, but these parents are ready to go back into the classroom to be volunteers, to help us teachers as well. So I'm excited about the interaction that we're going to have with the parents. And I really feel that this upcoming school year, I'm going to have 100% parent participation because they want to know, what can we do? I didn't know my child act like that, because some of the parents, they were listening while they were preparing breakfast and lunch for their babies. And they was like, oh, you have to do all that. I said, yes, ma'am, but I got it. You got to have that talent, that gift to work with little ones. And so I really, really believe that my parents are going to step up this school year, and I'm just going to call them and say, hey, Miss Rackley needs this. And they're going to bring it up to the school. So it's going to be interesting, but I'm looking forward to the community partners and my parents really supporting me 100%. And we're going to be okay this year. A little nervous, but we're going to be okay.
You got second grade, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah, that is a special ministry. You have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Ms. Jones.
Ms. Rackley, I definitely gotta agree with you. I think we have the parents buy-in, baby.
Yes.
I think, it's like, okay, what you need. I think we have community partners. I think they are buying in. If never before, I think that we have earned most of the respect that we deserve, teaching during this pandemic, because we were really able to get into the household, right? So these parents, even me, I'm listening like, oh, poor lady. I mean, they've just had to go through so much, and definitely been a challenge. But I want to say that as a parent, so I always think about me and my children, because what I want for my children is the same thing that these people want for their children. And so I always try to put, my children on the face of these children. And when I think about it, my daughter's going to college. That's a challenge within itself, y'all. I'm not going to get started on that. But my son is going to 6th grade. And I'm like, Erica, stop and listen to him. Okay. So that's my thing. Like, stop and listen. And if I'm listening, more than just, because I'm always just moving. And so this is the year of just, so what I learned from the pandemic is that my family really, really needs me. I mean, we get along, everybody's moving, but they need me. Like, I am really just like an asset to their household. And so that was fun. But I'm like, okay, this is going to be, because he did exceptionally well virtually. Okay, so what does that mean for 6th grade? I'm almost scared to send him back. He did so well. I'm like, Lord Jesus, I wish I could keep him virtual forever. Okay, So those things, so just stopping and paying attention, that's me as a parent, and that's what I would suggest. That's what I'm gonna suggest to my parents when I start to meet and talk to them. And then mental health challenges. I learned that a lot of times in the Black community, we're like, just pray about it, baby. Just you just got to keep going. It's just this is what it is, honey. You know, but that's it. We can't. No, we have to listen to these children. So during summer school, I walked in and I asked. That was a question. I said, "How in the world did you guys fail this class?" And it was online, like you. And they looked and they were like, oh, we hated being at school. We had all of these things going on, but this one girl, she stood out. She said, the challenges that happen when I'm at school, I was able to be a part of all of those things. So everything that's happening at home, I was there. I was a part of it. I just didn't have time to go to school. So, my family is just, it's a dysfunctional household, totally different aspect, and then they just started opening up, about mental health. And so summer school ran from 7:45 until 3 o'clock. And we stayed in that one classroom. And after about the first 3 days, I was like, oh no, 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 this will drive everybody crazy. These children, we got to take walks. We got to get a breather. We have to go outside. We have to allow these children to interact with each other. And we did. It was not a part of the schedule. And y'all, I mean, it just changed the whole just trajectory of summer school. Okay. It felt at the end, they started talking about, just how they enjoy. So what started off as a negative thing, it kind of turned into, we all needed each other. And, they met new friends, we built relationships, and they were able to just breathe. And most of them, because I kept saying, y'all shouldn't be in summer school. Like they were on it, but they weren't as behind as I thought they were gonna be. The challenges at home and just having to do something they had never done before. And most of them, there were 16 children in there, and most of them talked about mental health. So that's definitely, if we can get community partners to get into our schools, and support us socially and emotionally, we need that. Even if it's just just a pamphlet, just whatever it is, letting these children know that they actually have somebody that they can talk to, that they can, somebody who understands where they're coming from. That is, oh my goodness, therapy, definitely a missing piece in Birmingham City Schools.
So Ms. Jones mentioned talking. And so I just believe that the world would be a better place if people would talk. And when I say talk, have something important to say, but in the talking, communication is two-way. So you have to listen while others are talking. And so mental health, the key to it, in my opinion, is you've got to listen. And so every day, these teachers on this panel with me, I'm sure they are like me. We believe in academics. We believe in those, rigorous lessons, as well as that sounds. But every day is not a day of instruction. You have to take a mental day. When I say a mental day, in the classroom, like for Miss Jones to come in and say, what she did with those students, that's what a good teacher does. A good teacher listens to the children. Now, I don't mean, when the children say they want to do this and we do something else. No, I mean, they listen to meet the needs of the child. And so we must have these conversations, and children must, now it is so important that school counselors are being visible. Not that they're not visible, but they are being utilized almost like the classroom teacher, in that these children have been through, some of them have been through more than what we could imagine during this past year, of not being in the safe space of the school. So I just believe that if we are talking, if students know that, one, we care, two, they have an avenue, whether it's the school counselor, a mentor at the school, the teacher, we've got to make time for that, because that is key to the vitality of the school year. And also with that, the teachers in preparing, I do a lot of journal writing and with my students. And so a lot of that is that social emotional learning piece, where they don't even realize that they are processing the world around them, but they're processing themselves through the prompts that I give them. And that helps too to create that atmosphere of calmness, that safe space, and for them to hear what their other classmates are saying and or going through. Some of the prompts I say everybody have to share, and then some of them I say you don't have to share. And on the ones that they don't have to share, I get the best and the
Mhm,
truest response from them because
mhm,
that's them processing their own whatever they're going through. But they're not, and I'm not a licensed counselor. However, I do know that mental health is important to education, and we've kind of left that part out in our school district. Did a good job of the social emotional learning piece this year. However, but that was just by an implementation only. We still had to come in and do some other things with it. So that's important. And then teachers, especially, so maybe the community partners could play a part in this. I'm not. We're now teachers are not a charity case. We are aware that we get a check. What I'm saying is the mental health and self care for the teacher is important. So I've done some enrichment. I've worked this past year. It's important that I go on a vacation before school starts, or have some type of um, self care where I am unplugged from anything that relates to my job, so I can give them the best self, the best me that I can, because I'm mentally fit in a sense. So that's important for parents to know that, for teachers to know that, and community partners as well.
Once again, coming up on the tail end, and all the good stuff has already been shared. But I do have some notes, and the first thing I wrote was stop, look, and listen. As a parent and as an educator, my youngest daughter, this was her senior year. She's my artsy kid. She's my theater kid, and there was no Trumbauer this year to prepare for. There was no fall production. There was no spring production. So it kind of took her totally out. Only thing that really, and I thank God for it, is that they did have an abbreviated basketball season. So if it had, and she stayed on virtual the whole year, but if it had not been for her day ending, her academic day ending at 1, and she had to be at school by 1:30 for practice, I think that's really what helped her make it through her senior year, is having that physical activity, that outlet. It gave her an opportunity to engage with her peers on a abbreviated level because she wasn't in the building all day. And then I started noticing that being an advocate for my child meant I needed to find something for her to do to channel those energies. And so I did put her in like an acting workshop that was on the weekend. So we had to navigate her work schedule. But I didn't take no for an answer, because whether she said I don't want to, I don't feel like it, and I know she did. It's just I saw that cloud kind of just not necessarily taking over, but becoming more part of her personality, which is not my child. Anybody that knows my youngest child, she's on 10 all the time. And I saw her going slowly to 6, 5. And I was like, oh no, we got to find something. And that's what I tell the parents of the students who I service. A lot of them have strengths that are not going to be visible in the regular classroom if they're not provided that pathway or that avenue. So stop, look, and listen. Observe behaviors, listen to them, as Ms. Jones mentioned, and Mr. Leonard and Ms. Rackley, listen to them, make suggestions. I teach middle schoolers primarily, and when you ask them something, no, nothing, no, nothing. But we've got to be in tune with what their needs are, even if they don't recognize that's their need. So when we talk about mental health, and I recognize that with my students who remained on virtual all year, I forgot the name of this little avatar. It's not Fortnite, but it's something you can go in and create your own avatar and you can do these little games. And my sixth graders, bless their heart, they're all coming from different elementary schools and never had a chance to really interact and learn their peers. I mentioned that one thing one day, and I had so many who were playing it individually. And so now they would log on, and the first thing they would ask is, can we play this? Can we do this? And I would go through my lesson because they were doing that work quick then, so that they could take those last 10, 15 minutes of class time to interact. So listen, provide spaces for the chatter, navigate and facilitate the chatter, allow that downtime. And I promise, I'm going to be advocating on all levels with administrators, with classroom teachers who I work with, anybody that'll listen. Some unstructured time in the classroom is going to really benefit the students and the teachers coming out of, and we're still in it basically, but not to the extent we were a year ago. So to piggyback on that, stop, look, and listen. Everybody, stakeholders, community supporters, teachers, parents, be an advocate, because our students, I think, moving forward, no matter what grade level, especially Ms. Rackley, God bless you, they're going to need our support, and they're going to need to have the ability to not get everything right moving forward. They're going to need that, not safety net, but they're going to need that support. I'm a bundle of nerves because my baby going off to college. What? Whereas my oldest daughter's in college and she was really pushing to move off campus, and for safety reasons, I was like, no. But for COVID reasons, oh yes, I would much rather have you in an apartment with one roommate as opposed.
I think we lost your audio, Miss Green.
I'm sorry, I know mine went out. I'm
Yeah, there
sorry.
you go. We can hear you
All
now.
right. Being okay with changing our mindsets a little bit as opposed to how we view certain things when it came to teaching and learning before, and social emotional learning. We're going to have to be okay with changing that a little bit across the board.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm about to go to my last question. So for those who have been patiently listening, get your questions ready. And you can either put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we'll come to you. But yeah, Miss Green, my nephew got into Minecraft um, during the um, during the pandemic, but that became his social outlet, was being able to connect with his friends over Minecraft every day and check in. So absolutely. So my last question for the panel before we open it up is, we have community partners and artists that are participating, who want to support you in this upcoming school year. What do you want them to be aware of? But also, are there any ways that you want them to connect with your students and the best way to get in contact with you?
I am so excited about the community partners that are willing and excited about working with me this year. One issue that I saw was the attendance. And so we need to motivate our little babies. So over during the summer enrichment camp, we had the local McDonald's to donate $5 McDonald's gift cards. And every week we had the student's name drawn into a hat, and one student was selected from each classroom. And it was a win for McDonald's as well, because when you go to McDonald's, you buy more than just $5 worth of food. But I have to have them in the building. So I would like um, my community partners to reach out to help me by, even if it's just a t-shirt, something to motivate them to come to school, because they're dragging. Let's see. The best way to contact me is by email, of course, and being visible in the schools this year. For example, since they are struggling readers, having some of those individuals come and read to the boys and girls, once a week will be beneficial for me, because um, they really enjoy seeing someone besides me every day. They want you all to come and talk to them. They want to hear another voice. So definitely being involved, even if it's just once a week, coming in and assisting to help them be successful.
All right. So again, thank you for the opportunity. This is my favorite part. Okay. So so I wanna so with high school, all right, so seniors, juniors and seniors, so things that you may that I want you to be aware of is that they may or may not seem enthusiastic about what you're presenting. Okay, they don't know that they need it. Don't worry about that. Give it to them anyway. All right. They're 17, they're 18. They don't know. They know everything and they don't know anything. Okay. So just give it to them. It'll come back later, and they will appreciate you for it. They will never forget the knowledge. So that's what I want you to be aware of. Um, don't be discouraged when you walk in the schools. Don't be afraid of the children. They respect you more than you know. Some of they curse like sailors. Okay, just that. Hey, they just do. Okay, that's one of it's like Lord help us, hush. Okay, don't be. They're teenagers.
And they
They're
do say,
teenagers.
I'm sorry.
They will. I mean, they'll say, "Oh my bad. Oh, you look just like a student. Oh, I didn't even. I'm sorry." So they
Mhm.
feel bad. All right, but this is their everyday life, and they have not seen each other since March, what 2020. Okay, so they're gonna be all over the place. Um, and then give them what you needed when you were their age. Think about it. What did you need? What did you miss? What do you wish somebody would have come in the classroom and introduced? Because I can't tell you, I can't say, oh, we need this. I don't know. All right. But I can tell you that they are missing so many things. And whatever you bring to my classroom, I have an open door policy. The best way to contact me is through email. The one thing people know about me, I don't mind interrupting instructional time at Ramsey High School. Okay. So if it's needed, if you want to come into my classroom, come on. You can give, I don't have to have a week's notice. If you email me the night before, I can stop. The best teacher can pause a lesson.
Mhm.
Okay. Because there's nothing like a life lesson. Nothing like it. So you can contact me anytime. You can, and I'll drop my email, in the chat. I'm excited. I'm waiting. I'm here. Let's do it. Let's go for it.
I'm excited about the partnership as well. Many times people, community supporters have come in and, it's the teacher, the student, and then the community supporter or partner. And so what I want partners to be aware of is that we are partners. And so we're going to do this together. And it's not going to be, well, this is Mr. Leonard's thing or Miss Jones' thing. We're going to do it together. And so I want the partner to understand and know that these are children just like children anywhere. So, I don't, not that we've had partners to come in and be, um, I shouldn't say limited, but it was more, I felt like I was having to defend my children and I shouldn't have to defend them with someone coming in. So, know who and where you are and who you're working with, but do not let that, um, don't bring in like a limited mentality. Our children can do more than what we think they can do. And so with that, just be aware that the there is no limits to that. And then I am kind of in a not a sticky situation, but I recently got a new job, and so I won't be at Ramsey. However, as a teacher, so I'm saying things that I wish, but I, I won't be the one to use it. So give it to Miss Jones, and I will stop in to see how that's going. But I do want, I think it's important for the partnership for, it to be more like a relationship. And so students will know the partners that come in and help. And like Ms. Jones said, if I was going to be here, I drop what I'm doing for those, to let those opportunities happen because students don't know the importance of the arts. They go to band, they go to choir because that's what they like, or they go to art because that's what they like. But in an English lesson, it's nothing more than I like for to show a piece of art or something that ties into the theme or something that we're doing, and talk about my love for nice art. And so, although that's kind of limited in a sense, but it gets them thinking. Some of them, they may not even know, what art is or art form, etc. So, just that relationship and partnership to show that the arts are important to education. They also foster helping build critical and those thinking skills as well. So again, they'll give it to Ms. Jones and I will assist as I can, Ms. Jones.
Thank you. So Mr. Leonard got an amazing job, y'all. So I mean, he had to leave us. It was an offer
uh,
he could not refuse.
couldn't refuse. Couldn't refuse.
Congratulations, Mr.
Thank
Leonard.
you. But I'm always for children. I mean, no matter where I go, I'm always for children because that is our future. And so we cannot not be for children because that's our future doctors, our future. I think getting older, I just realized the, it's just our future doctors. So we gotta have some good doctors and nurses. So it's important that we pour into them, so that they will realize their own value and be these citizens that we want them to be while shaping their own selves. Thank you, Ms.
Congratulations, Mr. Leonard.
Thank you, Ms.
This is
Green.
my first time hearing about it, so kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I implore you to take the value that you find in integrating the arts with you and share that with the masses so that because I've always felt that way as a classroom teacher, and that grew once I shifted into gifted ed. But then having the children that I have, I see where if they didn't have those separate pathways, because my oldest daughter, she's my artsy one, but she has 3 businesses right now that I'm just blows my mind. And that came from her being the type of kid that started a book club when we were at church. She started a girls book club at church. She always wanted to organize and do certain things. And looking back on her educational pathway, didn't see a lot of opportunities for that when she was learning and making straight A's and doing all those things. So the one thing that I would like to encourage our partners and those who are on this Zoom with us this morning is to respect the funds of knowledge that the students bring to the table. You know, Coming into the buildings, in education, we call it a push in uh, service model where you're coming and you're going into individual teachers' classrooms and you have what you want. You have what you want to share with the students. You know what you want them to be able to do with what you're teaching, and then providing them an opportunity to create something. But in the midst of that, respect and acknowledge what they bring to the table, because their experiences and their exposure may not look and sound like what you have experienced and been exposed to yourself as the visiting artist or the program representative or whatever, or community partner. But just know that they're not operating in deficit. They bring something to the table. And as Ms. Jones said earlier, they may not give you that rousing yay in the midst of, but they're getting it. So um, create an engaging environment for the teacher and the student. Can you all hear me? Okay, because my microphone ain't moving. I'm sorry. So that's the only thing that I would say. Respect the students, respect the teachers, and create that partnership that's sustaining. That it's not just a one hit and quit and they're in and they're out. But be visible, be active, and keep it going, because once one teacher see and experience and hear about the wonderful things that you're doing with one group of students or in one teacher's classroom, that's going to help build that longevity of what the arts collaborative can be and share within specific schools or school systems or however. So thank you.
Oh, that's good. That's good. And I think one of the things I mention a lot of times in my equity work is about it takes the commitment. We can participate in these types of events. We can say what we feel about students, but it actually takes that commitment for that change to happen, for that impact to happen. So I'll be the first one to say, Miss Jones, I would love to come speak to your students and talk to them. I got a lot of friends that I can bring and get them on a schedule. Ms. Ragland, I will send you some gift cards for your kids, you know, and Ms. Green, Mr. Leonard, y'all let me know what y'all need from me and I'll see how I can help. But let's open it up for questions. Do we have some questions from our participants?
I would just simply say, because I'm sure principals don't know this and they are planning faculty meetings for the beginning of the year, I would reach out to principals or maybe, um, at particular schools, or just stop in and say, hey, just what you just told us. And as you were talking, I looked at Ms. Jones, I looked at Ms. Rackley, our heads were nodding, because that's what, dance is power in that. So that would be key. So I would reach out to maybe your nearest schools that are near you, or maybe send something to our district leaders and say that service is available for principals to put it on the school agendas as they are preparing for the beginning of the school year. Um, I anticipate it, but we would have to have some type of guidance from the district. As much as I want to do field trips, I want to make sure that we're safe as well. So I'm sure they'll have a virtual component to that. So I'm not sure, but I do anticipate them. However, I don't want to, plan a field trip and then it's shut down because of something that I didn't know that the district had in place. So that would be a good question for our district level, and as well as the um, coming in of the building. To my knowledge, parents will be allowed in the building. So that means stakeholders will be allowed to come in the building. But no one has said that so far. So that will be something we probably have to get back to you on, I'm assuming.
Yeah. And I will say this, I've had the privilege and pleasure of taking students and interacting with School of Fine Arts on multiple occasions. And I love field trips. That's something that I tell my students at the beginning of the year. If I can find it and we can go, we're going. So as soon as for my department and for me, as soon as we're given the green light, either going out, loading a bus and going somewhere, or inviting groups in, we would have to definitely, like Mr. Leonard said, we need clearance and permission from central office. And then once that's received, we definitely can move forward.
Once we get the clearance, I am so excited because I am a field trip queen. Before the pandemic, we went to Barbara's Motorsports, McWayne Center, the zoo. You have to expose these little babies. They have to get outside of that classroom. So my principal said, you take too many field trips. I said, well, I'll just do them virtually. But I definitely will be reaching out to you because you have to expose these babies.
The meetings with Eric Essex during Black History Month. And there was another one. The pre-recorded presentations are good. And then providing some type of activity or something to encourage them to take what they got from that experience and next steps. My students did really well with the music of the movement concert, because I did a whole unit around that because I saw it ahead of time. I think right now, Zoom, whether it's live, I think that concert was live, but it was something else we did that was pre-recorded. So I think for me, being an itinerant, that works. I'm not sure of anything else at this juncture, unless anybody else want to jump in and you have some ideas.
This was amazing. Thank y'all for participating. Deanna, I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
Thank you, T. Marie. And yeah, thank you to all our teachers, Miss Green, Miss Rackley, Miss Jones, and Mr. Leonard. I feel very encouraged this morning, and just thank you all so much for what you do. And I learned that Miss Rackley is the field trip queen. So that's going in the bank. I hope y'all are seeing the love in the chat from our partners. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for being here. It's good to see everyone. Thank you again to our panelists and to our fantastic moderator, T. Marie King, the one and only. Please feel free to reach out to the Arts Collab at any time. Y'all know how to reach me. If there's anything we can help with, connecting with schools or connecting with our incredible panelists today, I'd be glad to do that. But we will send more information about PRISM back to school. Just a reminder, get those submissions in by August 1. And if y'all have anything you're able to donate to our cause of growing our audiences, thank you, Allie, Emily, Jesse, and William for being willing to look into that for us. We really appreciate it. But y'all have a good one. Have a good Friday. Have a good weekend. And we'll see you soon.